15 bold predictions for 2021 in wrestling presented by SCW here on YouTube.com. Thank you for choosing the channel and choosing the video. Please subscribe right now. Leave any comments in the comment section. Please like and share the video as well. These bold predictions will go across all the major wrestling companies, including WWE, NXT, of course, a part of that bracket, AEW, Impact Wrestling, New Japan, and much, much more. So stick around. 15 predictions coming up for you. But first off, it is the first video of 2021. So let me wish you a happy new year. Hope that the year is good to you, kind to you, that you stay happy and healthy throughout the next 12 months and beyond. But without further ado, let's get straight into it. And let's just say that these predictions, they are bold predictions. We're not just doing any predictions. It's not like there'll be 30 men in the Royal Rumble. Raw will still be 3 hours long and painful to watch because of that show length each and every week. We're going for big, outrageous predictions, things that I think potentially could happen in the year. Maybe one or two may cancel each other out depending on what happens. Some of it will be perhaps dependent on what happens with the pandemic, but still, we are going big, we are going bold. This first video is hopefully the direction for the year to come. It is going to be a big year, hopefully, for SCW here on YouTube. So without further ado, let's get straight into it. And the first one, potentially the biggest one for me, the most I'd be most excited about, would be AEW versus Impact Wrestling, the inter-brand pay-per-view. That's right, I think that is going to happen in 2021. We've already got Kenny Omega going to be on Hard to Kill, Impact Wrestling's first big pay-per-view of the year. And I think this is going to build to perhaps where we may get, Impact stars on Dynamite, continued going to get, wrestlers from AEW onto Impact Wrestling. How about it leads to, a company versus company pay-per-view? Revolution is coming up at the end of February, and I think that would be a great title pay-per-view for, a company versus company. So why not AEW versus Impact Wrestling? That would give us, about 2 months to build something up for that as well. I think it would be pretty exciting if we got that, but certainly at some point during 2021, I think we could see AEW versus Impact Wrestling, a super show, if you will, both companies under the same roof, at the same time, going up against each other. Speaking of which, then, the second one will be Kenny Omega winning the Impact World Championship. Now, as I said, he's going to be hard to kill, and I think that Kenny Omega is going to be the belt collector in 2021. It feels that that gimmick is there. The fact that we've got a working relationship with Impact Wrestling. He's already the AAA World Champion as well in Mexico. So why not just, rack up a few belts? I think Kenny Omega beating Rich Swann would send shockwaves throughout the wrestling industry, would be great for Impact. It could be great for AEW as well. It could be a good point as well to perhaps build towards an AEW versus Impact pay-per-view as well, or certainly with the champion versus champion aspect of it. So for me, I'm going to go for that as a bold prediction. Kenny Omega wins the Impact World Championship. I do think as well that New Japan Pro Wrestling, depending on the pandemic, will come into the conversation as well. I think that they will work with both AEW and Impact going forward. And of course, they have had a long history with Ring of Honor. We've not seen that now for a little while now. But what I've noticed is that Chris Bay was doing some appearances for New Japan Pro Wrestling in December. Gallows and Anderson, of course, with Impact now. They have connections as well to New Japan. Of course, we have seen some New Japan footage on Dynamite as well, not so long ago, with Moxley and Lance Archer, Tanahashi as well, of course, on Chris Jericho's 30th celebrations in the wrestling industry. It feels like we could have all of these working together, and of course, we've got AAA involved there as well. What, how great would this be? This really would show, it's almost what WCW did back in the 90s, working with New Japan and, of course, Mexico, and putting this, amazing array of talent on Nitro each and every week. You could see this coming with Dynamite, potentially, where we could have people flying in for odd appearances in shows and stuff like that. Certainly would be very exciting if that was to happen. And I do think, pandemic depending, New Japan Pro Wrestling actually joins in and partners both with AEW and Impact Wrestling. As well as that, I do believe that AEW, they will gain 1 million viewers each and every week by the end of the year. I think AEW, it's growing, it's building, it's going in the right direction. They've hit the million mark once, but can they do it consistently? I think that they're going to build their product over the next 12 months, and I do think that they are going to gain more viewership. And one way to do that could be to bring in the AEW Trios Championships, which has been rumoured for a while now. 6-man tag team championships, of course, is an idea that's been done in other promotions, of course. We've got the AAA, we've seen Ring of Honor do it as well. I think AEW will do it. They've got a lot of 3-man teams, just to name a few. Let's do that. We've got Jurassic Express. Of course, Inner Circle is a big stable in its own. SCU. We've got Death Triangle, Eddie Kingston and the Fam. I'm sure I'm missing many, but that's just 5 off the top of my head very, very quickly for you. And I think that certainly this will come in perhaps the early point of the year, maybe, but we'll have to wait and see. But I think that those championships will come in. They will debut in 2021, and I do think it will be a welcome addition to the AEW product. And also, it perhaps could be helpful if AEW were to have another program, because then you'd have more room for perhaps those championships. Because at the moment we've got a 2-hour Dynamite, we've got Dark. There has been rumours we're going to get another 1-hour show. So this is my prediction here. There has been rumours going around that Elevation could be the name for this. I will predict that will take place on Saturday evenings, 6:05 time, like the classic WCW times. And my reasoning for it is the fact that we've seen in the past year, Dynamite has had to move a couple of times. I think they were testing the waters to see what night could fit well. We've seen the Thursday night Dynamite. We saw, I think it was a late night Tuesday special hour, and we saw a Saturday show as well. And Saturday is currently a big gap in the wrestling market. There is no major show on a Saturday, and I think AEW, they want to separate themselves from the pack, and I think if they were to do that, have this show here, I think it would benefit. And of course, I mean, like we say, it goes without saying, those WCW connections there. Tony Schiavone, of course, on the AEW commentary team could perhaps be involved. Dusty Rhodes used to be the commentator for this, and heavy connections as well with Saturday Night, going back all the way through on TBS back in the old days. I think Cody would want to see that time slot come back. It's a nostalgic part of history in wrestling with WCW Saturday Night. I think AEW having that slot, and if Tony Khan is up for it, I think that could be the spot that we could get for AEW's second show. So I'm going to predict it will be Saturday evenings. And if it is Elevation, I think it'd be a great name as well. One last one then for AEW, and I think this one is very outlandish. This one is probably the boldest of all. I think CM Punk appears in AEW in 2021. Now, I'm not saying he's going to wrestle, but I do think, as I said, AEW want to do, want to build things up. They want to try and get that 1 million each and every week. They'll need to continue to do things. I think if CM Punk, a deal could be agreed, where he would make some form of appearance, whether it's a special referee, maybe it's just a one-night thing where he turns up, maybe it builds to a match, who knows. I think CM Punk to turn up in AEW, forgive my expression, could change the culture. I think that would be something that would be groundbreaking, it would be exciting, and I just don't see him going back to WWE any other time soon. So if the money's right, I know the conversation has potentially been there before. I wonder if he appears in AEW in 2021. Like I said, these predictions are bold. Speaking of bold, I mentioned Impact Wrestling earlier in this video. Let's do one more for Impact. I think they're going to bring back the Lockdown pay-per-view in 2021. It's been years since we've had it, and I think it will be coming back this year. I'm excited if it's a prospect. We have seen so many Impact Plus specials being brought back, some nostalgic pay-per-view names coming back, like Final Resolution. Genesis is coming this month as well, which is really exciting. I do want to see a slight tweak to that, though. Just going to go on a little tangent now for a small second. I think Genesis should be what represents what TNA was at the start. I think it should be the one night of the year that they have a 6-sided ring. Just a personal, opinion on that, but we'll have to wait and see what they'll do in future. It makes sense they don't do it this year, but I'm very pleased to see Genesis back. But to see Lockdown come back would be pretty awesome. Lethal Lockdown as well. I used to be a big fan. It was my favourite TNA show of the year. I think it comes back this year, and I really do. And if we have, like I said earlier in the video, AEW versus Impact in a lockdown environment, I'd be down for that. I think it'd be pretty darn cool. But yeah, let's move on to WWE and NXT then, bold predictions for the year. And first and foremost, let's start with the Royal Rumble, which comes up in January. I'm predicting an NXT superstar will win the Royal Rumble this year. Something that's never been done. We've had someone win the Royal Rumble and challenge for an NXT championship at WrestleMania. Never have we had an NXT superstar win the Royal Rumble and go on to challenge for a championship at WrestleMania. Now you're probably thinking to me, well, who's going to win it then? Who are you thinking? My current money would be on Rhea Ripley, because then she could go to, what she was supposed to have last year, but she'd go for the Raw Women's Championship instead. And I think that'd be pretty exciting. Maybe it's a match against Charlotte Flair again, perhaps if she becomes the Raw Women's Champion between now and WrestleMania. Maybe it could be Asuka, who knows? But I think that Rhea Ripley does get that WrestleMania moment in Tampa coming up this year. I think that she could win the Royal Rumble. Linking that then into WrestleMania, like I said, she could get a WrestleMania match. I think Ronda Rousey will compete at WrestleMania this year. And my reasoning for it, she's been training and her contract apparently expires with WWE in April. So I wonder if they're going to want to get one more match out of her. Maybe I mentioned Charlotte Flair already. That would be perhaps the most likely. I'd want to see her against Becky Lynch at some point down the line if it was possible. Timing just feels a bit off right now. But the fact that Rousey has been training again to get back in the ring, we've seen perhaps with the likes of James Storm on social media. I think that WrestleMania could be the place for it if we can get fans there in attendance. Again, perhaps potentially pandemic, could be a thing that could stop this. But I wouldn't be surprised if Ronda Rousey was competing at WrestleMania this year. Other WrestleMania matches, other things that we could see now. Don't shoot the messenger. I'm just predicting it. Goldberg, I do think, will be at WrestleMania. I do think will be facing Roman Reigns for the Universal Championship. It's not a match I want, but I think it's a match that's going to happen. It was meant to happen last year. I wouldn't be surprised if what we see is some matches that were supposed to be at last year's WrestleMania being moved over to this year's at the Raymond James Stadium, because we're supposed to have it there now at this stadium this year, as we were supposed to have it last year. I think some of those matches will be put to this WrestleMania instead. So Goldberg against Roman Reigns, I think, will be one of them. Another one I think will happen, because we've seen the likes of Edge and Randy Orton being rumoured. I think Drew McIntyre could be going against Braun Strowman at WrestleMania. I'm just going to throw that out there, because Braun, of course, was the Universal Champion last year, winning at WrestleMania over Goldberg. I wouldn't be surprised if he was to be potentially a Rumble winner and go against Drew this year. But that's my bold predictions at the moment for those WrestleMania matches. Not necessarily what I want, but what I think will happen. But one that could happen at WrestleMania, but certainly one thing I think will happen in 2021, I think Rey and Dominic Mysterio win the Tag Team Championships and will become the face of the tag, or faces, should I say, of the Tag Team division in WWE. So I think that Rey and Dominic will win the SmackDown Tag Team Championships, probably from the Street Profits, maybe at WrestleMania, maybe it's against the Usos. We'll have to wait and see further down the line. Next off, I will say that I think that Big E, of course, has had a big end to 2020, winning the Intercontinental Championship. I think he becomes the World Champion in 2021. Whether it's the Universal Championship or the WWE Championship, Big E for me will be a World Champion by the end of this year. It feels that the wheels are now in motion. I think WrestleMania is too soon. Perhaps the next biggest pay-per-view of the year is SummerSlam. That feels like it could be a good time spell between now and then. But I wouldn't be surprised if it happens even towards the end of the year. But not everything has to happen at WrestleMania. But I do think in 2021, Big E will win either the WWE Championship or the Universal Championship. I will say as well in 2021, Brock Lesnar. So I did mention at WrestleMania, he could appear at WrestleMania this year. Wouldn't be surprised if he was there. But one person I do think he will finally face in 2021, I think we will get the dream match of Brock Lesnar against Bobby Lashley. I think it's going to go down at some point in WWE in 2021. And for me, it's a match I want to see for a long time, particularly since Lashley has come back as well. I think that we're building Lashley now as this dominant force. He's becoming someone that, even though he's the United States Championship at present, I do think that he is someone now who is ready for that main event spot. And I wouldn't be surprised if he's been groomed right now with so many wins under his belt to be put in a position where he will face Lesnar at some point this year. Last but not least then, I will predict that one major WWE superstar will move to NXT to help improve the NXT ratings. Now, of course, I would love to see NXT move to a different night. I loved when it was on Tuesdays. I wouldn't even mind it going to Thursdays. I think that would be a great spot for NXT. But I think they'll be stubborn. I think they'll stick around on Wednesday evenings, and they will stick with the 2 hours. But I do think that one thing that helped NXT back in the day to improve ratings over AEW Dynamite, obviously, is the specials that they've done with the Great American Bash, Halloween Havoc. They'll probably do, I would imagine, quite well with what they're going to do with the New Year's Evil this week coming up. Seems to be built as quite a big show, although AEW also have the New Year's Smash coming up. I wouldn't be surprised if they were to bring in a superstar to help. They did this previously. They've done the likes of, AJ Styles with the club was building Survivor Series. I think Becky Lynch has been there in the past, and at that period, NXT was building on its ratings quite heavily because they had someone coming in each and every week. If you were to move over a Kevin Owens or Daniel Bryan, two people that I think would be quite perfect for that role, I think that they would be potentially superstars that would really help the NXT product and help the brand as well. Not necessarily booked so strongly or well enough on the Raw SmackDown brands, in my personal opinion. Even though KO is currently in the main event scene, I do think that KO will actually go straight back to the mid card the second that this rivalry with Roman Reigns is finished. And I do think he's been booked quite well in this feud, but up until now, it's been years we've not seen KO at the potential that we could see. He has gone to NXT recently to do a KO show. I wouldn't be surprised as well if he was to come back. He actually did a one-off appearance at War Games as well not too long ago. So I personally wouldn't be surprised if KO was to go back to NXT at some point in 2021. Another name, like I said, that Daniel Bryan would be quite a worthy one. Expected to go to a part-time schedule, but could you imagine DB on these takeovers, 40-minute matches with the likes of Johnny Gargano, Tommaso Ciampa, Adam Cole? You know, the list is endless, and something that I think would be, really exciting from a fan perspective if Daniel Bryan was to ever go into NXT. But that's my bold predictions there for you. 15 bold predictions. Hope you've enjoyed them. Let me know what ones you think are the most likely in the comments below. Maybe I've missed something out. Maybe you think, hey, this is a bold prediction I'd like to make. Let me know your bold predictions in the comments below. I look forward to interacting with you. But this is my first video of the year. And like I say, I wish you a happy new year. Many more videos coming up on the way. Make sure to keep out of the next few days. Ask SCW, the Q&A will return. As well as that, I'm going to give you who I think will be the breakout stars for WWE and AEW in 2021. So lots of reasons to stick around on the channel. But that's all from me anyway. Thank you for watching. Have yourselves a great day. You've been watching SCW here on YouTube.com. Happy New Year. Have a great 2021. And I'll see you guys next time.